They said women can't fly combat, until she shot down 15 enemy planes in 18 minutes. March 15th, 1944, 6:47 in the morning. The sky over northern France was thick with smoke and the roar of engines. 12 American P-47 Thunderbolt fighters were returning from a bombing run when German Messerschmitt Bf 109s appeared through the clouds, 15 of them closing fast, weapons hot. On the ground, inside a camouflaged hangar, a 26-year-old woman sat in the cockpit of a grounded fighter plane. Her hands gripped the controls. Her eyes tracked the dogfight through the open hangar door. She had logged over 300 flight hours. She knew every gauge, every lever, every emergency procedure by heart. But she had never been cleared for combat. Not because she couldn't fly, because she was a woman. The radio crackled. "We're taking heavy fire. Repeat, heavy fire. 2 planes down. We need support now." Her commanding officer was 50 yards away, shouting into another radio, calling for backup that wouldn't arrive in time. She looked at the ignition. She looked at the sky. She made a choice. Without permission, without orders, without a single word. She fired up the engine, and everything changed. Her name never appeared in any official record. In military reports, there was only a code name, Sparrow 7. Her real identity remained classified even 30 years after the war. But the files contained a few clues. She was from Montana, learned to fly at 13 in her grandfather's crop duster, earned her civilian pilot license at 19. In 1942, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, she tried to enlist. Her application was denied. The reason was simple. Women could not fly combat aircraft. So she joined the civilian air fleet, ferrying planes from factories to bases. For 2 years, she transported hundreds of aircraft. No accidents, no mistakes, but still no clearance for combat. In early 1944, there was an incident. A male pilot failed a simulator test after drinking. No backup pilot was available. The test flight was about to be postponed. The woman quietly sat in the seat and flew the plane. Perfect performance. A report was written but left unsigned. Commanders didn't know what to do. If they promoted her, the system would collapse. If they punished her, they'd lose the base's best pilot. So they ignored her, kept her in the hangar, called her reserve, said, "If we need you." But they never needed her. Until that morning. On the morning of March the 15th, the air base in northern France was in a critical position. As Allied forces advanced after the Normandy invasion, German air power was playing its final cards. Every plane, every pilot, every mission was vital. The American squadron had taken off early that morning for a bombing mission. Target, German railway junction. The mission was completed successfully. But on the return route, something went wrong. German intelligence had learned the American plane's flight path. 15 Messerschmitt Bf 109s had laid an ambush behind the clouds. The American pilots didn't realize it. Fuel was running low, attention was scattered, and suddenly the sky filled with bullets. In the first 30 seconds, 2 American planes went down. The others tried to scatter, but the Germans were organized and aggressive. The radio filled with calls for help. The base tried to send backup planes, but the nearest squadron was 15 minutes away. 15 minutes was too long to survive. The commander was shouting desperately in the operations room. He was watching friendly aircraft disappear one by one on the radar screen. His hands were shaking. His voice was breaking. In that moment, he saw the true face of war. Sometimes you can't win. Sometimes you just watch. But in the hangar, one woman didn't watch. She acted. When she started the engine, the ground crew was shocked. Someone ran up, shouting, "Stop!" No clearance. The woman didn't respond. She pushed the throttle. The plane moved forward. Another technician tried to block her path. The woman turned the wheel and passed around him. She reached the end of the runway, put on her headset, changed the radio channel. "Sparrow 7, ready for takeoff." The control tower didn't respond, because Sparrow 7 wasn't scheduled to take off. But the woman didn't wait. She pushed the throttle all the way. The engine roared. The wheels left the runway, and 10 seconds later, the silence in the hangar turned into thunder in the sky. When the commander came out of the hangar and saw the empty runway, he didn't understand what had happened for a moment. Then he looked up at the sky. A P-47 was climbing toward the clouds. He shouted into his radio, "Who is that?" Who gave clearance? But no answer came, because no one had given clearance. In the sky, the woman was ascending. Altitude 8,000 feet. Speed 350 miles per hour. Heart rate 140. But her hands were steady, because this was the only real moment of her life. All the training, all the simulation, all the rejection had been preparation for this moment. She opened the radio. "Any American squadron? This is Sparrow 7. Give me your coordinates." A voice answered, breathless, desperate. "Sparrow 7, who are you? We're at 4,000 feet, northeast direction, surrounded by 15 enemy aircraft. We've lost 2 planes. 4 are damaged. We need help now." "I'm on my way," the woman said. 30 seconds. When she broke through the clouds, the battlefield had turned to chaos. American planes were executing defensive maneuvers. German Messerschmitts were hunting. Smoke, fire, and metal fragments filled the sky. The woman paused at the scene. Adrenaline surged. But training kicked in. First target. Messerschmitt coming from the right. On the tail of an American, the pilot was trying to escape. The woman went into a dive. Speed 400 miles per hour. Distance closing. Entered firing range. Finger on the trigger. One breath. Took aim. Fired. Rain of bullets. The German plane's wings shattered. Smoke poured out. Control lost. The plane spun and fell. First hit. But the woman didn't celebrate, because there were 14 more enemies. Second target. A pair approaching from the left. Coordinated attack. The woman climbed. Engine strained. Altitude 10,000 feet. The Messerschmitts followed. The woman suddenly changed direction, reversed completely. Split S maneuver. The enemies were surprised. The woman got behind them, fired. One went down. The other fled. Third, fourth, fifth targets. Same story every time. The woman was unpredictable. The German pilots didn't know her. Their tactics didn't work, because the woman didn't follow the rules. She made unconventional maneuvers. Moves not taught in simulators, but moves she'd learned on the farm in her grandfather's plane. 10 minutes passed. 7 enemy aircraft had fallen. The rest were now fleeing. But the woman didn't let up. She went after them. Because if they escaped, they'd come back tomorrow, and tomorrow other pilots would die. 11th, 12th, 13th. The sky was now under American control. The German pilots had scattered. Those remaining were fleeing at full throttle. The woman tracked the last 2 Messerschmitts. Fuel was running low, ammunition was running out. But her determination wasn't fading. Last shot, Last target, bullets gone, but the woman didn't give up. She flew straight at the enemy plane. The Messerschmitt pilot saw a dot on his radar, approaching fast. He panicked, made an evasive maneuver, too sharp, lost control, spun and fell. The woman hadn't fired, but she had won. When she returned to the base, the runway was filled with people. The commander, technicians, other pilots, everyone was there. The plane landed. Engine stopped. The woman climbed out of the cockpit, took off her helmet. Her hair was wet with sweat. Her face was tired, but her eyes were still burning. The commander walked toward her. Everyone was silent. The woman waited. Would punishment come? Arrest? Discharge? The commander stopped in front of her, looked at her for a while, then extended his hand. "Best flying I've ever seen," he said. They shook hands. Applause rose, but the woman didn't hear the applause, because in her head there was still the sky, still the sound of the engine, still those 18 minutes. Officially, that flight never happened. It's not in the records, not in the reports, but it's in the pilot's memories. All 12 men saved that day knew, but no one spoke. Because if they did, the woman would be punished. The war ended. The woman returned to Montana, flew crop dusters, got married, had 2 children, never gave an interview, never told the story. But her grandson, one day, found an old box in the attic. Inside was a flight helmet, a pair of gloves, and a handwritten note. "The sky doesn't belong to those who wait for permission."